Nations announced that they are petitioning the Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, of the United Nations to have the United Nations provide international election observers for the upcoming U.S. presidential election.
The coalition will hand-deliver the petition to the U.S. embassies of the following ECOSOC member nations: New Zealand, Brazil, France, and Sweden. Observers are requested to assist in ensuring universal voter rights, to document violations of voting rights, to guarantee the election results are tabulated accurately, and to bring the forces of international law into place should the election be illegitimate.
This is the summary of the petition. We, the undersigned non-governmental organizations in the United States, hereby petition the United Nations through the Economic and Social Council for protection of our human rights through provision of election observers and monitors for the upcoming U.S. presidential election on November 4th, 2008. We request observers to assess the breadth of voting irregularities and document any voting rights violations that may occur during this 2008 presidential election. In light of the critical importance of the right to representation in our government, guaranteed through U.S. law, including documents such as the Bill of Rights and Constitution and legal precedent, United Nations documents to which the U.S. is a party, such as the UN Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, we are requesting international assistance in providing non-partisan witness to the process and assuring to the extent possible universal voting rights for the entire U.S. citizenry this November 2008.
We are requesting this assistance due to serious concerns regarding enfranchisement in the upcoming 2008 presidential election, based both on historical discrimination and exclusion of the rights of certain populations to vote and to have their votes counted. There is broad evidence from both the U.S. presidential elections of 2000 and 2004 that there were patterns of election fraud, voter suppression, and intimidation. The gold standard of predicting the outcome of elections, exit polls, which have continued to be more reliable over time, showed clear victory of the Democratic candidate in both of these presidential elections. A much-delayed count of all the actual ballots in Florida from the 2000 election showed that the Democratic candidate had in fact won the vote. Unfortunately, a complete recount had been denied at the time of the election.
While the world is perhaps most aware of evidence in the state of Florida in 2000 and the state of Ohio in 2004, there are much broader patterns of tampering with the vote that lead numerous election experts and much of the U.S. public to believe that the United States may have experienced two illegitimate elections. This, in addition to potentially informed by historical problems and voting rights violations in previous elections and significant evidence of violations leading up to this 2008 election, give reasons to believe election fraud and voter suppression may be equally or more widespread in this election. Sources of possible remedy from within the U.S. to date have been attempted and have been insufficient to protect our rights or the integrity of our elections. We recognize that the most fundamental purpose of election observers is to verify the fairness of elections. We also recognize that the baseline of international standards for fair voting cannot be met in the United States electoral system, which is essentially consisting of 52 different electoral states, each of which is overseen by politically partisan administration. However, it is the very partisan nature of our oversight that determines the critical need for non-partisan observers from outside our country.
Given the world impact of U.S. elections and our government's stated mission of bringing democracy to the rest of the world, the importance of world scrutiny of the reasonable accuracy of United States elections is critical both to the protection of the human rights of the U.S. people and the interests of the rights of many across the world.